math is whipping motherfuckers' ass. You wanna know how to rhyme, you better learn how to add. It's mathematics.
Mighty most def.
It's simple mathematics. Check it out. I revolve around science.
What are we talking about here?
Peace, peace, peace. It's Rakim with Wise the Dome TV. Today I have a special guest. It's my brother, man. He lives in Ghana. He's a street Sufi. He's extremely well-read, a man of the community. My brother, Nasiru Wonder. Thank you for coming on, G.
Thank you for having me. Wise the Dome TV.
Indeed, family. So let's begin, man. You're a big time reader. I always see you around books. Books seem to be a big part of your life. What started you on your path of, education and learning and self-discovery and being just an avid book reader?
Well, I start by saying Assalamu alaikum. Peace be unto you and then cherished listeners. Okay, what started me on this book journey is I had a friend one time who watched the movie Risala, and then he was relating to me what he saw in the movie. So he told me this and this and this happened, and he said, I gotta have a watch on this movie. I said, what happened? I mean, what is it? And he says on Islam, and then the trajectory he was trying to get me on was just too much for me, and the information that he was just inputting weren't adding up to me. So I said, well, I got to do the math myself. Secondly, I had a friend who was a brother. He used to live in a neighborhood, and he went to New York. And he probably moved with his dad. So we were kind of having conversation, and he told me, Nasiru, you seem to be someone who likes to know more, and you keep asking me questions. Why not read? I mean, he was encouraging me to read. Well, where can I get those books, and then how can I get them to read? And he said, well, yeah, there's a lot of books. He was giving me titles, and I said, how can I have them? He said, well, he doesn't know. I said, well, a lot has been denied to us. We might want to read, but the literatures are not available. They are not at stake. Just imagine the book that I have to order from Amazon and other bookstores, and I have to wait months. Probably it takes a long time before it gets here. So if you don't have the fire in you to do that, you can go on.
Right.
So that's what started me on.
Indeed. You mentioned it can take a while to get books from places like Amazon and things like that. Is that really kind of the only way you can get certain books?
Well, books that are decolonial, that are very necessary for our development, are not in the market. And then those that are available, you cannot purchase. They are too expensive. Look at the biography of Kwame Nkrumah. You have to spend close to $50 to get it. And then $50 here is a lot of money, man. Close to 250 cities for you to get one. And not just that, you need more, not just one book. You need a whole lot. You need Frantz Fanon, you need to have Marcus Mosiah Garvey, you need to have, Malcolm X, you need to have a lot of all those revolutionaries to see, our path. It's just linked together. There's no difference between us and them. As it is here, so it is with you. So you gotta understand what I'm trying to say,
No, I totally agree. And I'm glad to hear you say that, brother, because a lot of people don't understand that concept is that we are not only linked, but we are the same people. It's how important is it to you for us to understand, our brothers and sisters in the continent of Africa and our brothers and sisters in, North America, South America, and Europe? We are all the same people, and we are all fighting for the same liberation. How important is that for you, do you think, for us as Black people to understand?
Well, it's very important for us to understand, because when we had this mechanized slave trade, it wasn't in our will, and none of us were willing to go. even though some of our forefathers took the lead to get to northern to get to the Americas by themselves before the slave trade occurred. You look at what Eva Van Setteman said. They came before Columbus. It's about the history of the Moors, and then you look at us, and it's indeed the facts. Our people came in the America way back before Columbus. So you look at the link between us here in Africa and then those in Caribbeans, and you look at those in America and Europe. You just look at it. We are the same people genetically. We're the same people.
Right.
We just been broken by barriers and the languages, and then you look at the tradition. We've lost our names, religion, tradition, our culture. We don't even know who we are. So there's so much of misconstrued identity that we need to work on. So that is why we need to have a barrier between us and our brothers, wherever they might be. We need to find them.
Yeah, indeed, brother, man. That was very well said. And, that's just so important, man, because that's why I believe in pan-Africanism so much, is because I won't allow anything to separate me from my brothers in Africa or my brother in Brazil or my brother in Jamaica. Whenever we study science, we understand genetically that we are the same people. We have differences we have differences culturally sometimes because of the part of the world we live in, but that's okay. And that's still a beautiful thing because we are able to, share different things culturally with each other. And we don't have to all be the same. We are, culturally, but we are all the same. We are all the same as a people, and we need to understand that and move forward with that. Do you think, like growing up in Ghana, in school, whenever you're learning about history, did you learn about the history of the slave trade and what was happening here in North America and in South America with the slave trade?
Well, it's not. You don't get to. It's only a brush up. You don't get to know what's happened. There's a slave trade, and then there's so much imprints in the system that you can know, but it's not fully been taught to us for us to know. Just like you see, the Holocaust is being taught to the Jews, and every now and then they're being reminded of the atrocities they've been through. No one has monopoly on suffering. We've suffered. We keep suffering, and you look at our system. Man, it's too much. It's just too much, I tell you. And we don't know what is really happening with our brothers there. And then there are brothers who are there, they don't know what is happening here. Exactly. They just have a scripted message. This is Africa Safari, this is Africa Lion Kingdom, and then this is Africa the Barbarian network. It's just so much that our brothers have been fed. So when they come here, say, wow, our motherland.
Right.
We have food, good women, we have clothing, we have the weather. Everything here is just unique. We just need our brothers to come home and then take control of affairs. They should come and then utilize whatever profession they are in, whatever means they have, to just wait on Europeans to just come here and just take off whatever we have.
Right.
You gotta do better. Yeah.
No, exactly. And so that's the thing, right? You know how you were saying that, yes, you may have heard some about the slave trade and the atrocities that, we went through here in the Americas, but in America, our schools didn't teach us about the atrocities that were going on in Africa and West Africa. It's like they cut us off from each other. And so like for people that don't know, what are some things as far as everyday struggle, because we all have our different struggles. Black man in America has a struggle. Black man in Ghana has a struggle. What are some of those struggles that being young and in Ghana that as a man, that you are currently facing, or that others in your position may be facing?
Well, we to say bluntly, we have so many struggles that we are trying to deal with. Like the leaders that we have here, some of them, excuse me to say, are clueless. They don't meet with whatever is required of them. Like the state is supposed to be more focused on important issues like having sanitation, and then issues, and then taking care of economic factors that would benefit the country, not just a few folks. Just like we look at the corporate world and then capitalism and then all that. I mean, the state. I mean, we in the community, we in the country are not of much benefits to the resources and then whatever availability of funds or projects that comes here is being sold out to people from abroad and then friends and then others. So it just boils down to us. We're the same people struggling, poor, with nothing, yet we have everything out our reach.
So what is the political system like there? Is it how many parties do they have that I guess, would you say
well, we have a lot of parties, but the big parties, to say, we have close to 3 or 4 which are big, but like just the 2, and then the MPP and the NDC, which are the former government on seats, NDC, and then the current government NPP. All of them are just in to just massage our issue, not to just solve it. Just like our father Osajifu came to, liberate us totally. You look at what Nkrumah did in way back, and then up till now, no government has been able to meet with what he had brought. And then we keep going back. We are retrogressing. We are going back instead of moving forward. We had our independence. That's what the slogan: forward ever, backwards never. But here's the case: we're just going back. That we keep going for loans. Debt is slavery. Why go for loans whilst we have everything at our reach? We have the gold, the timber, the bauxite, everything. We even have crude oil here. So what are we going outside for?
Right. I mean, that's a great point. I mean, it was once known as the Gold Coast, and like you said, there's crude oil there. All the resources that the outside world wants are there and grow abundant. And it seems like outsiders come to the motherland to take its resources and give nothing back. It's just, and the world turns a blind eye to it. If that was happening, in Europe or in a country where there are, majority, white people there, it would be national news, and the UN would have issues. I think you kind of touched on something that I want to touch on as far as capitalism, right? And here in America, we have the illusion that we can buy our freedom, right? The more money we begin to make, the more free we think we are, right? But in actuality, if one of us is not free, then none of us are free, right?
Exactly.
What do you think about the system of capitalism, and how especially in Africa and West Africa, do you think it is helping or hurting the community?
It is very hurting, and it has never done as good, not for 1 second. I mean, it serves in a body, an organized body, a corporate world that never have the interests of the people, the masses at heart. Whereas all those powers that you've been given or you extract are coming from the masses. So whenever you have the political tenure, they come to the office, they want to get into the office, they go around rallying for support for people to vote for them. When I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. So until the community takes charge of their affairs, and then man, when we leave power to just the people who've been handed, whether it be the mayor, the assemblyman, the MP, or the minister, or designated for whatever respective field, I mean, we're gonna be where we are. I remember Frederick Douglass, who said power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did, and it never will. So we gotta demand for them, since they came for power from us. If we don't, they're just to do whatever suit them, not us. I mean, the masses, the people, our needs. We have people dying from curable diseases. Curable diseases. Now you're talking of corona, COVID-19. No.
Right.
Malaria, it kills thousands of people every day. We die from curable diseases. I mean, just roads, our road networks are just poorly, very, very bad. And then the only attention we give is to the city.
Right.
Well, most of the food that we have that been brought to the city are coming from the village. If we don't have good roads, how can the food get here? And we don't have like proper reserve for where to save our food and other stuff. So most of us are doomed. We look at the country, we look at the nation at stake, and things are just getting out of hand because we have handed our power to our elders, and we think they could do better. It's not necessary. They could have the power, but not to do what is needed until we ask them and let them account for what is supposed to be done.
What? So those, because it sounds a lot like what happens here in certain instances, not all the same as far as, but there are similarities in the poor dying more from COVID. And, here in America, the poor are the poorest group of people in America are Black people, right? Are Africans in America, right? We die from curable diseases. We die from, bad diet because our neighborhoods don't have healthy foods. And then you see these corporations, right? They have everything, and they have all this power. And so it's just very interesting to hear you say that, in Ghana, how capitalism and how the corporations live somewhat in a different system than what the masses and the people live in. It's kind of like the same everywhere that capitalism is,
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. You brought up COVID, right? How has COVID affected Ghana? And because, whenever we watch the news, we always see what happens with COVID locally and what has happened in Europe, but they don't like to talk about what's going on with COVID in China. I mean, I'm sorry, what's going on with COVID in Africa? Can you shed some light on how what's going on as far as, do you guys have are they vaccinating the people, or what's going on?
Well, it's gradually becoming a norm. People have been affected, and we have cases of many dying of COVID, but most of them who are dying are aged and then are prone to infections and stuff like that. So that is the reason why we've seen so many deaths. And then Ghana has been one of the nations to accept the vaccines, and then now people go. They've set up a centers for the vaccination, and then people go here and there to be vaccinated, and so they can have their way. It has affected us economically. You look at tourism. Ghana profits a lot from tourism. We make a lot. So because of the restrictions on traveling and stuff like that, people don't get to come here in numbers like they used to. So that kind of break down the Ministry of Tourism. So that's that. Look at that aspect, but it's safer that way. We don't get to be affected by so many foreigners coming that we even know them.
Does China have a big presence in Ghana right now?
Well, we do, and then the last time I heard them having a conversation over the prison or the reform center, as they say, is kind of full up. And man, you look at how people have been treated. Well, some are even just suspects, and some are just under remand, and it's just mind-boggling, and it's not a good thing to see now here. So when you go, we had a visit to someone president. I mean, the folks over there, I mean, well, I just estimated from the world. You look at them, they are in this world, but they are somewhere else.
Right, right. I definitely understand. So as someone who is a Muslim who's dedicated to his studies, you know, Ghana has a big religious population with Christianity, Islam, Rastafarianism, even indigenous spiritual systems. What does, well, it's kind of a two-part question. Do you see, with the major religions in Africa, do you still see remnants of African indigenous spiritual systems within those religions?
Well, it's felt, but it's not seen. But like, we kind of have a common relation with our ancestry, so we kind of linked up. But theologically, we are separated. But there's so much respect to people in the traditional religion, that is African indigenous religion. There's so much respect we have for them. We don't enter their bond, neither do they. So when we trespass against one another, it becomes a havoc. So I mean, we are at peace with one another. So we kind of work mildly and to the interest of the state. So that's yeah.
So so there's a pretty high level of religious tolerance, and you know, people being accepting of one's beliefs.
Yeah, we have it, and that is one of the beauty of Ghana. When you come to a national gathering, like you see people from the traditional religion who come, and then they just come in, cantate, and then call on for our forefathers, and then just celebrate. And the Muslim cleric would do his prayer, and then the one from the Christian family would come and then offer his. So it's kind of a balanced thing that makes us believe that with one another we can live harmoniously. We look at Accra, for example. It's an land belongs to the native, that is the Gans. And then there's a month that they have a celebration that is called Homo War. I mean, like, it's something to commemorate, like, the shame to hunger. There's been a year that they went into famine, and then now they had abundant food and the stuff like that. And then it just is a moment. They plant. When they plant, there's no drumming, no disturbance in the capital city. So everyone adheres to that. Even though you don't say they are not Muslims, they are not Christians, they have their sort of belief and they adhere to it, and we live in their land, so we go to it. There's no noise making in the community, and until the end of the month, when they are done, they have a celebration that they do this, cook food and then share, and then they have a big celebration. So this is one of the examples of it.
Wow, yeah, I think that's dope, man, because you know, in the West, it's like religious tolerance is not a thing, you know. That it's I mean, they may portray it to the world like it is, but in all actuality, you know, people are definitely looked at differently, and in some cases discriminated against, in some cases, you know, violence against, you know, over religion, right? And we see that in the world. And so it's dope that, you know, our brothers and sisters in Ghana are showing and proving that, you know, we don't have to be separated by religion. We can still have our ideologies and look at ourselves as one people.
Yeah,
What
exactly.
and so like and there's an Akan word, Sankofa, right? And for those
Yeah.
who don't know, it's you know, it's not taboo to fetch what's left behind, to go back and get. And it's the concept that has been adopted by the diaspora to learn about their African roots and spiritual systems and history. Like, what are your thoughts of the children of Africa who are no longer in Africa, now learning and embracing their African roots?
Well, I say to them, congratulations. There's no shame in that.
Mm.
We all have our heritage. We all have our offsprings, where our predecessors, where they come from. And then to honor your roots is to honor God. Just like we read in the Bible, it says, honor thy mother and father so that your days may be long. It's not just them. It tells you, and then the land they came from. Yeah, you listen to our forefathers when they were singing by the rivers of Babylon, where we sat there, and there we were, and we remembered Zion. They were just calling us back home with the songs that they were singing. Carry me home, sweet chariots. They were just calling us back home. They were just calling us back home. We should make ourselves avail. We should come back home and then make amends, repatriate back home, and then be connected with your brothers. That's the only way to be. That's the only way to be.
Yeah.
And in Ghana, welcomes all everyone who's interested in coming back to the land. They just have to do their best and then make it amicably. Time waits for no man.
Right, man. You dropped some heavy jewels on that one, man. Especially like the science of, yeah, the Bible does say honor thy mother and father, and in a lot of cases, you know, people may only look at that as you know, your biological mother and father, but to be able to look at it as reclaiming your roots and honoring where you come from and the land and the continent and the people there, like that makes that scripture even more powerful. So I definitely appreciate you for dropping that jewel, man, because that's a real jewel. And I'm going to keep that one and take that one with me, man. Word is bond, man. So let me ask you this though. You know, Ghana got its independence from Britain in 1957. Kwame Nkrumah, you know, is become a hero to Black people all over the world because of what he stood for, and you know what he did as far as, you know, leading Ghana to independence. Are the youth in Ghana taught about Kwame Nkrumah, and is he still you know, a beloved figure from the people there?
Well, Kwame Nkrumah has been much regarded, but ever since the coup, I think that was 1966, and the COINTELPRO, it has affected us. There's been strenuous efforts to wipe Nkrumah from the system. And then now Nkrumah has become a litmus test for both parties, whichever party comes to power. They make use of him to achieve power. After they have the power, they abuse him, and they refuse him to be of much significance to history. I mean, we have the Founders Day, but we had a president who just came in and he said, well, it's Founders Day. We should add, we should make it a plural, not just Nkrumah. Well, I agree with him in one sense, but in another sense, it don't make no sense. Because Nkrumah was the one, not single-handedly, but he was the one who fought to see if Africa being freed, and then we had our liberation as we have now. He was saying independence now, they were saying independence later. And he said, what? Why wait later when we can have it all now? He fought, and then now we even have some texts that are being passing through processes to be approved to make the youngsters who are the primary six and going to see Nkrumah as a dictator and his party CPP as some crooks, and it's being passed through the system. People have been arguing about it, but that's it. When you tell a lie long enough, you keep repeating it, you get to believe it. People are saying, yes, Nkrumah did well, but he took our resources and gave it to the people around us, our neighbors, and then what's not. Yes, we can never be free when Nigeria is in bondage. We can never be free when Cote d'Ivoire, when Togo, when some of our nations who are around us, when they have problems, their next place to get in is Ghana. And we are not even much capable of taking care of our affairs. How much of people coming from African states? Just look at it. We have a small population, not much, little over 30 million, but we are not able to cater for our affairs. How about people coming from the larger community? What do you think is going to happen?
Right. Yeah, that's real. Because it's one thing for you to be liberated, but we want everybody to be liberated. You know what I mean? All of our people. And that's Kwame Ture was definitely inspired by Kwame Nkrumah, and he talks about and he talks about the same thing that you kind of mentioned was we don't want to wait for liberation. We don't want to wait for freedom, justice, and equality. Like I've seen, like, in the political sphere in America, and it seems like also in Ghana, right? They will there's a sentiment sometimes where people aren't ready for full liberation, or people aren't ready to have all their rights and freedom, justice, and equality. And so we have to do things gradually. But that makes no sense to me. Like, and with you being a well-read person, like, what are your thoughts as far as, like, when it comes to liberating the people? Do you feel like it should be a gradual thing, or liberation must happen all at once? Like, whenever you see an injustice, it has to be fixed right then.
Yeah, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. You look at the process, it takes time, but we're supposed to be having such conversations. It's supposed to be a mainstream conversation for folks, for youngsters who are only thinking of growing up to become like the so-called elites, who have no interest of the people at heart. You look at what some of our elders did. They were fearless, and then they were selfless. They put down their lives for the help of the people. But look at the people that we have now, the leaders that we have now. It doesn't mean we can have new leaders now. We're supposed to create a new sort of leaders who would come up with principles of love and unity for one another. That is how you're going to cherish your brother who's coming from the neighboring countries, than someone who's coming from abroad. Jesse's pale skin, Jesse has some sort of language skills and whatever techniques, you just put him into a field that he's not even deserved to. Whereas your brother is close and then he can do better, but you don't give him the chance. So I think the needs for arts, science, and then academia to join hands and for the liberation of our people. It just that doesn't mean we have to be writing about what we mean, but it has to be more through our music, through the movies that we watch, through the novellas, and then the documentaries. Is a lot that we need to put ourselves in that can change the narrative bit by bit. It doesn't happen at a go. It takes time, but the fire must be kindled, and then I think there's no better time than now.
You mentioned something earlier in regards to this, where COINTELPRO, and how now they want to paint Kwame Nkrumah as if he was a crook, or if he was somebody who was bad for the people. one of the jobs of COINTELPRO
Yeah.
was to discredit anybody, any organization, and anybody that was working towards the liberation of Black people. And so here the same thing is kind of happening. There are books that are coming out that are disrespectful to Malcolm X's legacy, and there are, you know, rumors that, you know, get put out about you know, the legacy of Martin
Every now
Luther
and
King.
then.
It's crazy that happens, but we can't let them change the narrative of our
No,
freedom fighters, you know.
it's just another strategy to misdirect our attention where our focus is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't get to read Nkrumah until you have that kind of interest. And then those who have heard of Nkrumah only heard of him from different lenses, but they are yet to hear what he said, what he did, and to see for themselves. So you don't, I mean, there's so much hurt to our nation, and so many people are even angry with what's happened to Nkrumah. So his literatures, his books cannot be bought here. You have to order his books. Sometimes it comes from, if you're lucky, it comes from Lagos, from the Pana Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it has to come from abroad. And then when it's around, when it's available, it's very expensive for you to buy. When you buy a book at an expensive cost, you don't toil with it. You don't toy with it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have a friend who told me, he's from Nigeria. He told me he read about Nkrumah. I mean, but when he went to the library, they had to lock him for him not to get out with the book. And he was even searched to see even if he has taken note of what he read over there. So it has become a classified information to read about our leader. Just look at this.
Wow, that's amazing to hear, because I mean, he was at one time, for all of us, he was such a beloved figure, you know, and was so powerful and important. And now to hear that the place he liberated from Britain's rule doesn't even have any books about him. That's man, that's scary in some instances, you know.
That's very, very scary. You have to go milestones to get the books of Nkrumah. If you can have it here, you cannot afford it. And then those who can afford it are not willing to give out. I mean, we need to have more of his books, and then we should have more programs. We have programs, but we need to have more that would make his works accessible. Quite recently, there's a publication of Nkrumah that was printed. This was a special edition. A book of Nkrumah is Africa Must Unite.
Yes.
And it was available, and then people could afford. So, I mean, you see a lot of the youth trying to acquire the books.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was just good. I mean, people want to read about the man and then see what he was trying to do, and then what can we do to help light up his vision, because he didn't do for himself, he did for the masses and the interests of us who are now growing up.
Yeah, man. Very, very powerful, man. I think you know, I think that's an eye opener for people that, you know, may not be aware of that. I mean, it's definitely an eye opener. You know, with you being you know, someone who, like I said, is a big time studier who sees the values in books, education, and I know you study a lot of Sufism as well. Can you tell me, like, what had intrigued you about you know, a lot of Sufic thought and books on Sufism? What kind of sparked you to want to study that more?
Okay, you're talking of books on Sufism?
Yes.
Or you're talking of how I came into the field of Sufism?
Yes.
Okay, I think the path you've been called to, not you, is not by your will sometimes. So I had a moment in my life that I went to crisis, and then I even forgot who I was, and then For someone who has been in the community, Islamic community, who has learned the Quran and then a few books on Islam, that he's supposed to be on the path. I just traversed and I just went my way. I was on the streets hustling, trying to make ends meet. But you know the path to God, it calls you, and it calls you at the little nights when you are all confused, you cannot sleep, you cannot have your own time. So we kind of have the youth who are very much interested in Sufism, and then they follow sheikhs, and then they have gatherings, they have programs, they talk of mystical unveilings, and then they talk of so much miracles, and then they talk of so much of how a warrior and Sufi sheikh is, and then how much he knows the knowledge of cosmos, and then the knowledge of divine, and then how he's able to commune with nature to call on rain anytime he wants. And then there's so much, it's like, wow, this is interesting, that we want to know. So we kind of being engaged with folks that we end up being on the path of the righteous masters who have been pure, and then they seek to purify our hearts to reach the Deific moment where here we are, and here is our Lord, and then our masters leave our hands, and whilst we hold on to the path, reciting the litanies day and night, until we reach the moment.
Indeed. What does it mean to have a purified heart from your perspective?
Well, it's to die. Is to die before your death. Like, is to kill your ego. Is to not feed your ego. Is to kill off all those vain thoughts, those bad imagery, those animalistic behavior in you, to become a human, wherein you can transcend to become your holistic being that you ought to. Someone who is traveling in the present, who is leading himself to the future whilst living now, living past, living now, to reach his master.
Indeed. Do you feel like that is a lifelong process?
It's a lifelong process that you need to let go of everything. You need to let go of your needs. You need to go off, and all you need to is to obey the laws, because there's no reaching a goal without a roadmap. And then the roadmap is the sacred law, that is the Sharia, that leads you to the ultimate reality, that is the Hakika. And you cannot be your own doctor. You need to have someone, a physician, a Sufi master, who knows of all sciences, to teach you what to do, what not, when to, how to, and then what to say, and then how to be silenced, because sometimes silence could be a weapon to be fought against you. So you need a master to be at your feet, day in, day out, to be guided until you reach that moment that you don't do things by your will, except by the will of God. And then that is a lifelong thing, just like you're saying. It doesn't end. You need to have someone, a living check, who is alive, who keep guiding you.
You know,
so you reach it.
That's and one of the key words in that jewel you dropped was the physician. And a lot of people don't understand what that means in Sufism. Can you explain what does physician mean in terms of Sufism?
Okay, the physician is your murabi. We call him Sheikh Tarbiyah. He's someone who trains your soul, who guides you, who gives you prayer, who puts you on the path day in, day out. He watches your moves. He keeps guiding you, your thoughts. He keeps guiding you, your visions. He keeps explaining them to you day in, day out, until you're able to reach there. And then we, like in the Sufi tradition, we say, whoever has no sheikh, then Satan is his sheikh. So if you don't have a spiritual teacher, Satan would be yours, definitely.
Wow. You know, that's very similar, like me being a 5%er, and you know, that was created in North America, you know, out of just our dealings with white supremacy here. And you have to have a teacher, you have to have an educator in order to be able to you know, walk that path. And that's very similar, you know what I mean? And it's very interesting to see how a lot of the concepts that we have are really old concepts at times, you know what I mean? Where and so like, and you know, and so one thing, like, is, and I know you are like, hip hop is big all around the world now, and a lot of the founders as far as hip hop were 5%ers, and hip hop is, as far as the rapping part of it, is based on poetry, you know how, and Sufism is poetry is big in Sufism, and you are a poet as well. Why is poetry and Sufism synonymous? Like, what is the connection between poetry and Sufism?
Poetry and Sufi, poetry and Sufism, yeah, they are very much interlaced. Because you look at the verse of creation where it says be and it is. That is poetry. Be and it is, kun fayakun. That is poetry. In modern times, we just say this is spoken word. And then you look at the Genesis, where it says in the beginning was the word, and then the word was with God, and the word was God. This is all poetry. I mean, without poetry, none of us can understand what scripture is.
Right.
We have one of our great luminaries, Imam Shafi, who said on the Surah Al-Asr, he says, where could maybe, should it be there's no verse or no scripture, like we don't have it in full, and then we only have that verse, that chapter. I mean, the message in it and what it contains was enough to lead you as a Muslim, as a believer, onto God without any reckoning, because of how simple it is, and then how poetically it has been. It has, I mean, delivered from divine without no alteration. And poetry has a long link with our scriptures. And when it comes to Sufism, you look at all of our masters, they communed poetically, they have things to say, they say it, but you have to decipher it. Just like you do.
Right.
You have the 360 that you keep doing your things, and then you're able to get things for yourselves. Yeah,
that's what I was going to say too. Like, so you have to decipher it, you have to and so, and with, you know, being able to hide deep concepts and deep spiritual concepts within poetry, for the reader who goes on that journey to try to decipher it and get the higher meaning from it. Like, as far as that process goes, is that part of the process, as you know, as how you see it, as connecting with the poet, the poetry, the lesson, the scripture that it is referencing? Whenever you have to actually go into that deep dive within the poem, what is that actually, in your opinion, what is that actually doing for you spiritually?
Well, it kind of unearths so much in you that gets you connected to connected divine. You're able to have access to you with yourself, and then with your source, which no one can give you that connection except by yourself. You might be guided to reach here or there, but all of it, just like we have a different fingerprints. It doesn't matter where you are or who you are. Even when you come from the same womb, maybe few seconds, you may be twins, but each and every one of you has something that makes God almighty. It makes Almighty we have been differentiated from one another, even from the same womb. So we kind of have a link. And then when we are on that path to have a mystical unveiling, it differs. What you might see that would give you a vision might be the same as me, and the visions would come, but it might not come with the same style, but in the same reality. It's the same thing that needs to be interpreted. Yeah.
Indeed. And you brought up mystical experiences, right? And so for the Sufi, mystical experiences are one of the goals, right? For like certain rituals and certain practices.
Yeah.
What does it mean to have a mystical experience?
It means a lot. It means a lot to have a mystical unveiling. To have a mystical unveiling means a lot. It means you have reached the point where you are now ushered into the assembly. You're able to see men, not just from your dream, but with your reality. You're able to meet saints, you're able to meet prophets, you're able to meet messengers, you are able to meet divinely with what is happening in and around you. And it means a whole lot, because the divine openings of the mystical experiences differs. And then that is why the path of Sufism has been the path of knowing. It's not something, it is something that you know, but you don't know just by being taught, you know by being experiencing. So it becomes an experiential knowledge that you need to have. But in order to have that, you have to have mystical unraveling, and then that is it. That is why it is very important for you to reach there. And then with that, you need to have a master or a teacher who would keep guiding you for you to do this. For a certain litany to be reciting here, for a certain litany to be recited there, here and there. So that's about it.
And so what about, I know that obviously reading and studying is a big part of Sufism. Poetry is a big part of Sufism. Ritual, like in certain areas, it may be dance. In certain areas, they won't tell you what the ritual is, right? Because it's a secret in certain Sufic schools. But and I don't have to tell me anything specifically that maybe you have done or in that sense, but what part does ritual play in Sufism and connecting with Islam and the source in a different in a non-traditional way, I guess?
Yeah, in a non-orthodox way to say, right?
Right.
Okay, it means to traverse the path, because all those paths that we are threading on, was from the master, the chosen one, Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and all of them were from saints who were looking out for answers to this world, to this chaos world, and then this disturbance and decadent world. So they strived their best. They strived their best by sending blessings and peace to the prophet and his messenger, and then they had to receive those teachings. And then the Sufi tradition stems from not just from the prophet, even it came before the prophets. You get it? It comes before the prophet, but the prophet has been the seal, and then it's out of him that we have it in groups, in larger groups. And then he Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had even taught his disciples, just a handful of them, and then they were being on the path. But it's been something that has been within the compound, not everyone. Our path leads from a Sufi sheikh who is from the grandson, who is the grandson of the Holy Prophet. He's called Sheikh Ahmed Tijani. He's from the lineage of Hassan, who is the son of Sayyida Fatima, and then Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And then both of them were that Fatima radiallahu anha is the daughter of the Holy Prophet, and then Sayyidina Ali, being the cousin of the Prophet, married her, and then they give birth to kids, and a lot of them. But the ones who we're talking about, they are Hassan and Hussein, and he stems from Hassan, and then they had a tradition of teaching orally, and being initiated onto the path by like some sort of allegiance and some sort of way like that. So you kind of have a backup, not just with you, but in the larger community of prophets, and then the messengers, and then the saints, and then the angels. All of them back you as long as you enter the path from a licensed mukaddam who is a spiritual teacher. You don't just go and take the permission from someone who says he is a mukaddam or he is a sheikh. No, you go to someone who has a license, who has been licensed to teach, to give the path. So that is how you get the blessings of the saints, you get the blessing of the path, you get the outpouring as you recite you recite the litanies, because there's litanies that you need to be reciting day and night, and then there's hadra, that is a gathering that you do with the common folks in the path, just like we have just like the 5% that have the 360-degree cipher that you have to do your own things and then to decipher. But this is not something you need to decipher, but it gets to move you from your physical being into your inner being. That is, you move from your state into the real state where there's no falsehood, just truth in reality. So that is when you're able to transcend border, you are able to remove the cloak, because we've all been veiled. So we need to have that kind of teachings and then guidance to unveil so many of us that we can have access, we can have connections with God.
Indeed, indeed. You know, and out in the West, they have kind of commercialized certain things, like the teachings of Rumi are big out here, right? But the westernized version of those books, they have removed the words Islam and Allah from those books. I find that but like whenever you do that though, don't you think you're taking away from the true essence of what Rumi was teaching?
They removed the essence of the teaching, because words have power, and without power we see verbatim that when you say something, it has to vibrate. Every word we say has a vibration. So the more you condense, the more you take out or you omit something, the more it becomes hollow, and then it doesn't add up. It's like a puzzle. You take one out and it doesn't add up. There's now no way it can match up. You might read it for other reasons, but when you look at the spiritual elements of it, you don't get it until you have the real works that has been translated, be it word to word or an interpretation that gives you a finer understanding of what Rumi says. And then it's very unfortunate that his work has been westernized, and then you don't get to see the Islamic aspect of him, and then him being a Sufi. And then apart from that, he has been a very great scholar who does tafsir and exegesis of the Quran. He's a great luminary, but you don't see it in his work. It has been divorced from his work, and this is bad, not good at all.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely takes away what the intent of it was. It seems like now a lot of movements come up where it's all for show. They're not really striving to do the inner work that you just got through talking about. When it comes to doing the inner work, there's no book for that, right? There are books that can help you and guide you, to go within. But to go within, all you need is to be able to, be, through meditation or through, being accountable for your own ways and actions, and observe the world around you. That's the real, that's to me, right? That's what going in looks like. And I see a lot of, like, just to see that how they have taken a lot of those real concepts out of Rumi's teachings and just made it acceptable for Westerners. It's somewhat, first off, it's somewhat disrespectful, right? Because that's not what that's about. And two, they are so anti-Islam that they wouldn't buy it if they saw the words Islam and Allah in those books.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What about what role does music play in Sufism?
Okay, music, it plays a lot. Like you say, when a nation is supposed to develop, it has to pass through several dimensions, be it entertainment, arts, and politics, and sports, and whatnot. And then music plays a very big part in Ghana. And you look at Ghana when we had our independence, that was the start of high life. We had so many bands who were, sending the message of unity, of instilling nationality in our hearts. If this nation is going to prosper, it comes from me and you. So they kind of instill that kind of love for our nation. And then so many songs, not just anthems, not just pledge. There've been so many songs in the Nkrumah era it's still been played here, that will been set up, it's been under his watch to make sure we have something that kind of move, it kind of channel our attention into and all of us being an individual working for a state, not just different people working for a state, but all of us, seeing myself as you, seeing yourself as me. But currently there's been a fall from the high life. It doesn't move that much, and then we also have hip life. But what tunes now is dance hall, which is which is danceable reggaeton. That that's what moves the folks now. And then we also have Afro beats that's originated from Fela Kuti, who I think you're aware of, who has Zombie. He has so many music that are dramatic, that are lyrical, that are so full of humor.
Right.
We also have some now that are coming, but the high life too. We also have some few budding artists who are trying to raise the banner of it, but it's ain't reached, it ain't hit the ground yet, but it's just surviving, like bit by bit.
Oh yeah, and there's been a lot of artists that have incorporated a lot of Afrobeat in their their records. Like, that really blew up. That really blew up, and you can see Africa's influence in music all over the world now. And what's interesting about that is the fact, like we just got through talking about earlier, how we are the same people, we are connected. And musically, I feel like when we share different things musically, like, with each other, as far as, us sharing hip hop, y'all sharing Afrobeat and reggae, in Jamaica sharing reggae, like, we are all contributing to what the world sees as popular, and it all was born from our different experiences from the places that we were born in, which I think is pretty dope, man.
Yeah, dope.
Yeah. So I one thing I saw, what I found interesting and enlightening, and you're familiar with the works of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and being from Ghana, how did you get introduced to him and his teachings and teachings of Master Farad and the Nation of Islam?
Well, my first encounter with the teachings is through one of my teachers who is a Rastaman, and he has done a lot to bring me to the fore. And he first started by giving me message to the black man. And then when I was reading, I was like, what is this? What is this trying to say? It was like some kind of, but it answers so many questions that I have in mind. But when I had my hands laid on the How to Eat to Live, it was just dope. And the message that is in that book, the food recipes, the dietary plan, and then the fasting, the man, and it was just on point. And then when I adhered to it, it did well in not just my health condition, but in my mental growth. I was able to read books and then not forget what I have read. I could read 5-6 books and I could tell you what I read from it. And then I had a good sound retentive memory. I was like, wow, the mind of God. I could bring out what I read. I was like, this is unbelievable. Well, little man from Sandyville, Georgia. Oh, praises due to Allah.
Indeed, man. I think the one thing and so you said you had a Rasta teacher, right?
I had a teacher.
Is Rastafarianism big in Ghana?
No, not that big, but it's growing, and then it has so many people getting into it. And then the one good thing about the Rasta community, they kind of have a program that they kind of bring all faiths together. They have a reasoning that we don't just tell you this is what the scripture says, this is the Holy Quran what it says, this is the Bible what it says, this is the Quran Nagas what it says, or whatever. No, they just tell you this is what the text say. How do you say it? Let's have a reason. So when you think with that, we develop a sentence, we get to understand what the text says and what it really meant, and then for who it was meant for. So that is one empowering thing. And then they've been enlightening folks who don't take things and then are not that dogmatic. So, I mean, when you get with them and then they are keen to learn in day and night, to advance their minds, to be able to have good music, not just music, but to be able to sound intellectually well. So any moment you spend with a Rasta, not just a dreadlock, no, it's not what is in, it's on the head, it's what is in it. It's not about having dreadlocks, it's about committing to the philosophies of Rasta and then doing what is needed. You look at our magnificent teachers in the Rasta community, and they did well. And then you look at their music as being a revolutionary message that keeps resounding every day and night. When it's played, you see how millions are enraptured. They get to, come into the fore and understand we are one people. Right. One people.
Yeah. Even what Bob Marley, Marcus Garvey, what one God, one aim, one destiny. And, Bob Marley used to say, right. And, and it's, I think, reggae music, whenever, the time of Bob Marley and Peter Tosh, I think, for some in the West, it might have been just music, right? But for Black people all over the world, it was a way for us to start to reconnect back with Africa musically.
Yeah.
We felt the connection because we always heard, Bob and Peter Tosh, sing about, West Africa and Ethiopia. And they were singing about the whole continent, West, Central, and East.
Yeah.
Right? And it just gave us that connection. And I read one time that when that happened, in a lot of cases, that helped to give our brothers and sisters in Africa pride as well. Hearing reggae music and hearing brothers sing about the greatness of Africa. Like, what did that do for the community from what you saw?
Well, it does a lot. Culture. Joseph Hill has one track that is Starliner. He said, hey, they took us away from our homeland.
Right.
They took us away from our homeland. And we are slaving down here in Babylon. And we are slaving down here in Babylon. In it, he says we have to go back to Ghana. We have to eat banku. We have to have nice talk with our ladies. We have to, I mean, it just tells you what is in the community, what is in the country, and then the goodness in it, and then the rich culture that we have,
Yeah,
that both of us can share with one another.
indeed, indeed, I agree. And with that said, there are certain misconceptions about what West Africa looks like, right? You know, through the media, um, especially in the West, they don't always show Africa in its proper light. And in my opinion, that's one, to justify the system of white supremacy, and also to make us not want to go, right? What are some misconceptions about Ghana and West Africa do you think are prevalent in the world but need to be cleared up?
Well, what needs to be cleared up is Ghana or Africa is not a safari, just like some of them say.
Right.
Some of the Westerners, they would say, and we know it's an orientation to
Mhm.
not just people interested in here. Yet they keep coming here every now and then. They are here. Uh, they have their envoys in us. If here is a safari, why do you keep coming? You have your ambassadors here, Commonwealth, UN, and then whatnot. All the countries in Europe, they have their ambassadors here. And then what they say, that we being cannibalists, we eat one another. That is a lie.
Right.
I mean, that is a fact lie. Where in history does it show Africans eating or breeding on one another? That is not here. I don't know if it's somewhere in America or in Europe. With them, maybe
Right.
because the reflection of you comes out when you view someone. You think he is as you are, but that doesn't mean he is what you are. That's
Right.
not us. Here we value family ties, and then the brotherhood is very, very good. We might not be the richest, but we have so much that we are good at. We have so much that we are interested in. And then we are very much religious folks. And then we don't take religious reason lightly. We have respect for our waters, for our mountains. Hey, you cannot go to some certain waters when you are in your menstrual period, or when you are dirty. No, it's abomination. Something bad could happen to you. And it's not just a myth, it's a reality. And then we have the mountains, we have the seas. There's so much that is here that people need to know. You don't have to be waiting for what the media tells you of Africa. Sometimes you need to, make a takeaway. Just leave your comfort zone, travel, and then see how you can find for yourself.
Right. I think that's important, is definitely not taking what the media portrays as right and exact. And we need to travel and see things for ourselves. And then we'll be able to have the understanding that we need. As far as, let's say, somebody from America or Jamaica or Brazil say, hey, I'm really thinking about moving my family to Ghana. I would like to be back, in the motherland. I want to repatriate. I want to live in Ghana around my people. What would be some of the things that you would advise them as far as in preparation on what they would need to do in order to repatriate back to Ghana?
Well, I'll first extend my arms to give you Akwaba. You are welcome into the land, first and foremost. And then the land is for us. Just like Marcus Muzayagabi says, just like our father Nkrumah believes, Africa is for the Africans. And you look at what Peter Touch says. You don't really need where you come from. As long as you're a black man, you're an African. Don't mind your nationality, you have got the identity of an African. So you being home, it's a work. We give you a welcome since we are home, taking care of affairs. So when you come home, we give you the necessary requirement, what you needed to do to make you a son here, and then maybe you can have a name, a proper name.
Right.
that tunes with your family, that tunes with your culture.
Right.
And then you can have a place to stay based on the lines that you have. And then, well, I would say this is the best time to come because you have so much that we need to benefit from. You have so many people who can come here and then teach at the universities, set up an institute, build up an organization, open up libraries, open up cafes, build businesses that you can bring your brothers together, you can work along. And in Ghana, it's not a bad place to stay. We've been championed and then we've been the envy of most for the peaceful atmosphere Ghana has been. Despite the coups that we've had in Ghana, after Nkrumah had coup, we had several coups. But yet Ghana remains the most peaceful place. I don't think you're gonna have peace living in a place that is full of chaos, full of atrocity. That makes no sense, and I would not recommend you to. So Ghana is a nice place to be, and then you are welcomed as much as everybody who wants to make himself back home. We have a lot of people who have who are in. There's one professor, Obadele, who came here after so many embarrassment and harassment that he faced. And then he did well. He wrote his PhD in tree, the first time in history. Someone wrote his PhD dissertation in tree, a language, a common local language. It was just intriguing, so wonderful.
Right.
And then we need to do more. Just come home. Our arms are widely open for you. Just come home. There's so much goodness here that you need on earth.
Indeed, man. Indeed. That's very powerful, brother. What I've read about how, peaceful, Ghana is. I read that recently. What do you think, what is it about Ghana that makes the people so, have open arms and strive to be unified and educate their brother and sister? What is it about the land and the people that makes that the case?
Well, it means a lot. We've been through so much, and you look at Ghana being a center. We are very much closer to so many borders, and then we have so many neighboring countries coming here who depend on us, and then some who derive so much benefits from us. And then it has been instilled in us, I think, since our founding fathers of the state, that if you can live peaceful with ourselves, we can live at peace with whomever. So we are very peaceful with one another. Then there's a great coexistence between us and the people from different faiths. I mean, you don't get to see fight with people from different faiths, and then even intra-religious conflicts is now here. So that we are grateful for that, and then we thank God for this greatness. We cannot claim this victory for ourselves, but it is God's doing. And then we give thanks to him and the elders who did this mighty job to see us live harmoniously with one another. It ain't easy, but we got it. So we gotta give thanks.
Indeed, man. Well, I want to thank you for coming on the show, brother. I think this was probably one of the most powerful ones, man. I'm really glad. One of my favorites, bro. And so I definitely appreciate the time, man. And you dropped some jewels, man. And I think it'll be a real big eye opener for people that watch, man. And I just want to say I thank you, brother, for coming on and giving me some of your time.
Okay, thank you for having me too. I'm really grateful. I really, really appreciate it.
Indeed, man. Indeed, family. Well, thanks for coming on, man. Peace.